Hey guys, it's Randy Knapp with KnappStudios.com. Today I'm going to show you how I turn a lidded container. You'll see as the project goes along that the box or the lidded container has been designed so that this chuck makes it easy to turn all the parts. It's easier to make the project fit the tools that you have, and then once you have a good understanding of how that tool works, you can go bigger and smaller and increase your range of what you can do with that chuck. So I like them to have some depth to them, so if the material can be 1 3/4 to 2 inches thick, it'll make a pretty nice box in the end. Alright, so I love to use this spring punch. You can get these at Harbor Freight, they're just a couple of bucks, but you just put them on and they knock a nice little divot in there for you. Super handy for marking centers. Okay guys, I got my blank sawed out and I've marked 2.5 inch circle where I'm going to cut a recess on this side to chuck it, and I'm going to turn it between centers. Just throw this spur center in there so I don't have to pull the chuck off the spindle. Now I'm just going to mount it between centers, so I've got the center marked on. Here's the 2.5 inches I need for the chuck jaws. So I'm going to go cut that out with this diamond point parting tool. So I'm going to face this off true with the bowl gouge, and I'll just true up the outside of this. Now I'm going to take out the spur drive. This is going to be the top. I'm turning it over. Now I'm going to true up the bottom, and I'm going to cut a recess in the bottom. So that's with my diamond point parting tool. Now I use a bowl gouge and go in and just take that little hub out. So now I'm lining up this tool rest so I can I'm going to use a heavy scraper, and I'm going to use the tool rest as a guide to just make that bottom nice and flat. I just want to whisper it off and clean up a little bit of that burn in the tear off. Okay, so this recess needs to be 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch deep. You want it to be flat or slightly concave a little bit. You don't want it humping out in the middle because then it won't set flat. I've got the bottom, I got the recess turned in it, I've got it all sanded up. So the closer you can keep it to its concentric size for chucking, the nicer it'll be. It won't leave as bad of a mark. I don't think you'll hardly be able to tell that I reversed this on there. Okay, now I've got a nice lip here, so I'm going to use a bowl gouge and go in and hollow this out. So one of the things I'm making sure not to do is when I start up here, I'm getting my bevel inside that lip so that I don't get a run that throws me outside. I can tell you, you go to try to make that a little bit bigger, and if you don't have it backstopped really well, it'll throw it outward from centrifugal force and you'll get a catch. Close enough to the bottom, I'm going to switch over to this round nose scraper and clean that up in there. I don't have a whole lot of tear out, but I'll clean up those burn marks and a real heavy scraper like that is just excellent for having to reach over that tool rest and scrape that. So I'm just going to put a fresh burr on it and finish that up. And I'm going to use the tool rest here and go across and clean that up a little bit. There's a little bit of tear out on that. it's the same as the bottom. You would rather have this tipped in than tipped out because it would hold the gap on your lid. So dead flat or slightly in on this. Okay, I'm going to go sand that real quick and you don't need to watch that. Okay guys, now I'm ready to shape the outside of this. And as long as I leave, you know, at least 1/4 of an inch there, I can make the outside shape whatever I want. So I'm going to turn it with this deep fluted bowl gouge. Man, that maple just has a gorgeous stripe going through it. I'm using this as a guide down here. When I get the scraper going, I'm pinching it and I'm just pushing it straight along that. The reason I was moving it around like this was just to get to some of the blade that hadn't been used yet. So I can use that whole arc on the end of that and have fresh, sharp burr. But the burr doesn't last very long. We're getting close down to the final now, so. Alright, so I'm going to make the lid for this out of walnut. So it's 3 1/4, so I'm going to make 3 1/2 inch blank. This piece is beautiful everywhere, but this corner is really nice. So there's a 3 1/2 inch circle. Now I'm going to put a 2-inch circle right in the middle. I've got some mahogany scrap here that I've made some 2-inch circles in, so I'll cut them out and I'm going to glue it right on there so I can grab onto that to turn the lid. Okay guys, I'm going to glue this little hub on. Hit this with the activator. Use a medium or a thicker one if you have it. I just used this because that's all I had. Zippity boom bah. That's ready to go in the lathe now. Now that will let me get in here like this so I can turn the lid. So let's just true it up. Okay guys, I'm going to use these dividers and get the inside diameter of this opening here. I'm going to transfer that onto this lid. It's better to start off big and work your way down. And also we want to make the tenon that's going to stick out angled out so it'll tighten as it goes in. I've cut a tenon on there and I've got it slightly flaring out. So it starts easy and, I mean, it's just a good fit right there. In fact, at the end when I sand that, I'm going to loosen it a little bit because I don't want it to be that tight. I want it to have some room so the wood can move. So I'm putting a little rubber pad right here so this live tail center can push on the rubber pad. So now I've just got a friction drive on this body piece here onto the lid. So I'll just use this deep fluted bowl gouge and turn that lid to fit. Where I've lined the tool rest up with the angle that I want it to be so I can just guide that scraper down there. But what I want to show you now is, especially when you're a beginner, you know, you want to sand in the front lower quadrant is your sanding zone. But you can use a rubber sanding block like this as a straight edge, and you can even all that stuff up with some 150 grit paper. Okay, so I've got that all leveled up with the 150 grit paper and the little sanding block trick. Now you don't want to make a box and have the lid be a perfect fit with the body, because as soon as the wood moves a little bit, it'll really stick out. It'll be a sharp edge poking out there. So we'll cut a little bevel on right on the seam. Okay, I'm working on the inside of the lid now. I like to put a little concave in there. Alright, so I'll go ahead and sand the inside of that. And everything on the inside is all finished sanded. So now the last step is to flip it over and just remove this mounting block. Use this tool rest as a straight edge to flatten your top. This is another good application for the rubber sanding pad. If you want, you can use it to help you get the top flattened out with some 150 grit paper. Okay guys, we're at the final finish. I like to use this polyurethane gel. I'm using the satin variant. This is you can build the finish with multiple coats. So usually I'll put on at least 2 coats and let it set just a little bit. Wipe off the excess. So that's the finished product. Just got to let that dry and give it a couple more coats and it'll be all done. Okay guys, there they are. They're all done. 3 different boxes, and look, I got 3 different grandkids here. Say hi.
Hi.
Which box is yours?
This one's mine. This one's my brother's, and this one's mine.
All right. They came out pretty good, huh? Do you like them?
Yeah.
All right. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Hope you got grandkids you can share your work with too.